My girlfriend turned out to be a 45-year-old man. What should I do? I swear to God, I still can't believe what I saw. I keep replaying it over and over in my head, like maybe I dreamed it, maybe I imagined it. But no, this is real. Last night, after 2 years of dating, laughing, talking about the future, and even moving in together, I walked into the bathroom and saw my girlfriend shaving. Not her legs, not her underarms, her face. And not in the soft, delicate way a woman might do with peach fuzz or whatever. No, she was shaving like a man. Thick, coarse stubble, the kind of stubble that only grows on someone who's been through decades of testosterone. I froze in the doorway, my throat locked up. I couldn't even speak. He looked at me through the mirror. And then he smiled, this strange, crooked smile, like he was almost relieved. And that's when he said the words that sent me spiraling. You weren't supposed to find out this way. The razor clattered against the sink. My knees felt weak. I wanted to scream, to run, to demand answers. But instead, I just stood there, trembling, while every memory from the last 2 years collapsed inside my head like a house of cards. And then, before I could ask a single question, he stepped closer, blocking the doorway. His eyes locked on mine. His voice dropped low. You're not leaving. I guess I need to rewind before all of this makes sense. We met online. Of course we did. That's how all the best and worst stories start these days. I was 23, lonely, fresh out of a breakup. I wasn't even looking for anything serious, just someone to talk to, someone who might make me laugh. And then there was her. Let's call her Lena. She had this easy, sarcastic sense of humor that hooked me right away. We started messaging every night, trading dumb memes and venting about our lives. She told me she was 25, a little shy, working remote because of health reasons. She never video called. At first, that didn't bother me. Some people are shy, some people have bad internet. And she always sent pictures, selfies, candids, even short clips. They weren't glamorous, just her on her couch, her in a hoodie, her laughing with her cat. Realistic, believable. And slowly, she became my everything. We talked for months before meeting, and when we finally did, I thought I was the luckiest guy alive. She was gorgeous, small, soft-spoken, with long dark hair and these wide, searching eyes that seemed to drink in every word I said. She kissed me like she had been waiting years to do it. From that day on, we were inseparable. But looking back now, I can't stop seeing the cracks. The way she always dimmed the lights, the way she avoided crowded places, the way her voice sometimes seemed deeper, only for her to laugh it off as being tired. I ignored it all, because love makes you blind, and I was so blind. The first real red flag came the night she moved in. I'd offered her a drawer, then a closet, then half the bathroom. But when I carried her boxes inside, something was off. They weren't the kind of boxes you'd expect. No makeup bags, no perfume bottles, no girly knickknacks. Just stacks of plain clothes, hoodies, sweatpants, and, most strangely, men's shoes shoved in the corner. When I asked, she said, "Oh, those used to be my brother's. I just keep them for comfort." And I believed it. God, I wanted to believe it. The weeks turned into months, and I pushed down every doubt. Until last night. Until I opened that bathroom door and saw my whole reality unravel in one horrifying instant. And now I'm sitting here, typing this with shaking hands, because he's in the next room. And every time I glance at the door, I see his shadow under the crack, just standing there. What am I supposed to do? I didn't sleep. I couldn't. The shadow under the door never left. He stood there the whole night. I know because I didn't close my eyes once. Every time I thought maybe he'd finally gone to bed, the floor creaked outside, like he shifted his weight just to remind me he was there, watching, listening. At some point around 5 a.m., I snapped. I couldn't stay trapped in that room forever. My phone was on the nightstand, but the battery had died hours earlier. Charging it meant going out there, going past him. So I told myself I'd pretend like nothing happened. I'd play dumb, smile, make coffee, then slip out when the timing was right. But when I opened the door, he was right there. Not sitting, not pacing, standing inches away, his face too calm, too steady. "Good morning," he said, like nothing was wrong, like he hadn't just admitted my entire relationship was a lie. My throat went dry. "Morning." He moved aside, letting me pass. I could feel his eyes on me as I walked to the kitchen, every step heavy, shaky. I fumbled with the coffee maker, hands trembling so bad I almost dropped the pot. "Rough night?" he asked, settling into a chair at the table. I forced a laugh. Couldn't sleep. He didn't blink, didn't smile, just stared. And then, after what felt like forever, he said something that made my stomach flip. "You're not scared of me, are you?" The way he said it, it wasn't playful, it wasn't curious, it was a test. And in that moment, I realized if I answered wrong, something bad would happen. So I lied. I smiled, met his eyes, and said, "Of course not." He nodded slowly, almost like he was satisfied, but I swear I saw the corner of his mouth twitch. The rest of the morning was unbearable. I kept trying to think of excuses to leave. Work, groceries, fresh air. But every time I opened my mouth, he was already ahead of me. I'll drive you. I'll come with. We don't need groceries. I stocked up yesterday. Every escape route shut down. By noon, I was desperate. I went to the bathroom again, locked the door, and this time I plugged in my phone. My hands shook so bad I could barely type, but I managed to send a single message to my best friend. Something's wrong. I need help. Don't call. Just come. I hit send, then waited. And that's when I heard it. A soft click, right outside the bathroom door. When I looked down, the phone charger was no longer connected. The cord dangled loose. My battery percentage froze at 2%. From the other side of the door, his voice came low and calm. "Who are you texting?" I didn't answer. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would explode. There was silence for a few seconds. Then 3 slow knocks. "Open the door," he said. I backed into the corner, clutching my phone like it was a weapon. Another knock, louder. I said, "Open it." My battery hit 1%. And then, right before the screen went black, I got one final buzz, a reply from my friend. On my way, 10 minutes. I didn't have time to react because the doorknob started turning. The doorknob rattled, harder this time. My chest seized up. I thought he was going to kick the door down. Then, suddenly, silence. I pressed my ear to the wood, barely breathing. No footsteps, no shadow moving across the gap under the door. Nothing. Was he gone? I didn't dare trust it, but after a few minutes, I cracked the door open, just enough to peek through. The hallway was empty. I stepped out, heart hammering, and that's when I saw it. On the kitchen table, propped up neatly against a coffee cup, was my phone, dead. He'd taken it while I was panicking in the bathroom, drained the last bit of battery, and left it there like some kind of message. The front door was locked, the chain latched, windows too. I tried them all, hands shaking, but they wouldn't budge. That's when headlights swept across the curtains, a car pulling into the driveway. My friend. I nearly cried with relief. I ran to the front door, fumbling with the lock, but before I could undo the chain, a hand clamped down on my wrist. Going somewhere? He was right behind me. I hadn't even heard him move. I froze. My friend's footsteps crunched on the gravel outside. She knocked. "Hey, you okay? Open up." I tried to yell, but his grip tightened on my arm, hard. "Don't," he whispered. His eyes were wide, unblinking. "Don't you dare." My heart raced. She knocked again, louder this time. "Hello?" I looked at him, then back at the door. And in that moment, he smiled. "Go ahead," he said, voice low. "Call her in. Let's show her the truth." The way he said it, it wasn't a threat. It was like a dare, like he wanted me to bring her inside. I hesitated too long. My friend tried the doorknob, but it wouldn't turn. "Why is this locked?" she yelled. I finally found my voice. "Help! Call the cops!" Her footsteps scrambled back, then silence. He didn't even flinch. He just stared at me with that horrible calm smile, like he knew something I didn't. "You shouldn't have done that," he whispered. The next 15 minutes were the longest of my life. He didn't touch me again, just stood in the living room, watching the door, waiting. I sat on the couch, too scared to move. Finally, red and blue lights flashed across the window. A knock. "Police!" I almost cried with relief, but before I could get up, he put a finger to his lips. "Shh." Then he walked to the door, opened it calmly, and let them in, like he had nothing to hide. And the scariest part? He didn't look guilty at all. He greeted them like friends, explained that there'd been a misunderstanding, even offered them coffee. I tried to tell them the truth, but when I opened my mouth, the words wouldn't come. My throat locked up, my body felt heavy. And the officers? They just nodded along, glanced at me, then back at him. One of them said, "All right, sir, just wanted to be sure everything was okay." And they left. They left. I wanted to scream. I wanted to beg them not to go, but all I could do was sit there, frozen, as the sound of their car faded into the night. When the silence returned, he turned back to me. The calm smile was gone. "You made a mistake," he said. And then, for the first time, I realized I might not get out of this house alive. The door clicked shut behind the cops. That sound alone nearly broke me. He didn't move right away. He just stood there, hand on the lock, listening, waiting until the last trace of sirens disappeared into the night. Then he turned back toward me. The calm smile was gone. His face was dark, flat. "You keep trying to run," he said softly. "That's not very nice." I wanted to bolt, to sprint past him, to throw myself at the windows, anything, but my legs wouldn't move. My body was buzzing with fear, like I was paralyzed. He walked toward me, slow and steady, and for the first time I realized this wasn't about love. It never was. He wasn't a boyfriend. He wasn't even who he pretended to be. He was something else, and he wasn't going to let me go. I don't know what snapped in me, but the second he reached for my wrist again, I kicked him as hard as I could in the chest. He stumbled back, caught off guard, and I ran. I didn't go for the door. I went for the basement. My brain was screaming at me to hide, to buy time until help came back. The stairs creaked under my weight as I flew down. The basement smelled damp, musty, like it hadn't been touched in years. But what caught my attention first wasn't the smell, it was the sound. Whispers. Soft. Dozens of them. At first, I thought it was the pipes, or my imagination, but as I reached the bottom step, I froze. The whispers were voices, and they were calling my name. The basement wasn't empty. Against the far wall, half hidden behind old shelves and boxes, was a door. A smaller one, like it had been built after the fact. I don't know why, but every hair on my body stood on end. Something inside me screamed not to touch it. But the voices, they were insistent, hissing my name, pleading, "Come here, please, please." I backed away, shaking my head. Then his footsteps thundered overhead. He was coming down. Panic took over. I grabbed the handle and yanked the small door open. What I saw inside made my blood run cold. The walls weren't concrete. They weren't brick. They were wood, splintered, scarred, and carved into every inch were words. Dozens, hundreds, thousands, names. Each scratched into the wood, some deep, some barely legible. And right there, near the center, etched with violent precision, was my own name. I staggered back, bile rising in my throat. How long had he been planning this? How many others had there been before me? The whispers grew louder, overlapping, frantic. "Run, run, run." That's when the basement light flicked on. He was standing at the top of the stairs, watching me. And he was smiling again. "You weren't supposed to see that," he said. He didn't come down right away. He just stood at the top of the stairs, silhouetted in the harsh light, watching me tremble in front of the carved names. Like he was giving me time to process, like he wanted me to understand. I forced myself to speak, though my voice came out weak. What is this? Who are they?" His smile widened. "They're part of me, just like you." The whispers rose in unison, urgent and furious. "Don't listen, don't trust him." My chest tightened. Every instinct screamed to run, but there was nowhere to go. The little door, the scarred wood, it wasn't a passage. It was just a wall of names stretching back decades. The basement was a tomb, and I was the next inscription. He started down the stairs, slow and deliberate, each creak of the wood groaning like a countdown. I grabbed the nearest thing I could, a rusted crowbar lying on the floor. My hands shook so hard I almost dropped it. When he reached the last step, I swung. It connected with his shoulder, hard enough to make him grunt, but he didn't fall. He just looked at me like a disappointed parent. "You think it's that easy?" I swung again, wild, desperate. This time he caught the crowbar mid-swing, ripped it from my grip, and tossed it across the room like it weighed nothing. The whispers screamed, "Fight, fight, fight." I backed into the carved wall, tears blurring my vision. "Why me?" I whispered. He stepped closer, raising a hand to my face, like he wanted to stroke my cheek. "Because you were perfect. Because you believed." The moment his fingers brushed my skin, something snapped in me. I bit down, hard. He roared, jerking his hand back, blood spraying from the torn flesh. The shock bought me a second, and I used it. I threw myself at the shelves. Boxes toppled, tools clattered, and buried under the mess, I found something sharp, a jagged piece of broken glass. When he lunged, I slashed. This time, he screamed. Blood poured down his arm, his chest. His smile cracked, replaced with raw fury. "You're going to regret that," he hissed. What happened next was chaos. He charged. I stabbed again and again, the glass tearing through fabric, skin, muscle. The whispers were deafening, shrieking in triumph and terror all at once. "Don't stop! Don't stop! Finish it!" We crashed into the wall of names. Wood splintered, dust filled the air. For a moment, I thought the whole basement would collapse. And then, silence. He went still. His weight slumped against me. Blood soaked my clothes, hot and sticky. I shoved him off, gasping for breath. His body hit the floor with a sickening thud. He didn't move again. I staggered back, clutching the glass, waiting for him to rise. But he didn't. His chest was still. His eyes stared blankly at the ceiling. The whispers hushed. Then, slowly, they shifted. No longer frantic, no longer warning. They were chanting. My name. Over and over, in dozens of voices. I turned toward the carved wall. Fresh scratches appeared in the wood, deep and jagged, as if an invisible hand was etching them right before my eyes. And there it was, my name again, larger this time, carved so deep it bled sap from the wood like open wounds. The voices merged into one, low and final. "Now you belong to us." I stumbled out of that house at dawn. My clothes were stiff with blood, my hands trembling so badly I could barely hold the steering wheel as I drove away. I didn't look back, not once. When I finally reached my apartment, I collapsed on the floor. I thought it was over, that I was free. But then, I heard it. faint at first, almost like a draft slipping through the walls. A whisper. My name. I told myself I was imagining it. Sleep deprivation, trauma, shock. But when I looked at the mirror across the room, my stomach turned. There, faint but unmistakable, were scratches across the glass. Letters. My name. And as I stared, frozen, more lines etched themselves in real time, the sound sharp and deliberate, like nails dragging across the surface. The final word appeared beneath it. Welcome. The whispers rose in a chorus, filling the apartment, and I realized leaving the house hadn't saved me. I had brought it with me.